Hello and welcome to our annual Local Authors Evening, which is one of our most popular events and a precursor to the main opening of the festival in Chiswick House. Each author has just 2 minutes to sell us their book, and that is a wonderful, if frightening, discipline. We normally hold it upstairs in Waterstones in Chiswick High Road, and last year's was the most successful yet. Packed with people, highly entertaining, and not just because 2 of our authors were in their 90s. Sadly, we can't be in Waterstones this year, but we're delighted that our friends at Chiswick Playhouse have stepped in and up to the mark and allowed us to film here, suitably distanced with Chiswick Buzz, without whom we couldn't be running this virtual festival in this way. Normally, you'd be welcomed by our wonderful author programme director, Jo James, but sadly she can't be with us this year, and we send her all our love and best wishes, and look forward to her returning for next year's festival. And of course, Jo has that terrific horn of doom, which brings our authors to a cataclysmic halt if they stray over that 2-minute mark. We have a barely adequate substitute, courtesy of an iPhone. I'm not sure if we can hear that now. As I say, barely adequate. Anyway, we will make sure that they have no more than their 2 minutes. We're delighted that a dozen local authors are up for the challenge, and we're going to introduce them in alphabetical order. It so happens that the first of the list, Zoe Antoniades, couldn't be here tonight, so we're going to show one that she prepared earlier. So this one is Zoe Antoniades.
Hello, I'm Zoe Antoniades, local author and great friend of the Chiswick Book Festival. I've lived in West London most of my life and I went to school just down the road from here at Belmont. So it's always an absolute pleasure to be part of this amazing community event and also to be supported by Waterstones Chiswick. It was actually here at the Chiswick Book Festival 2 years ago that I met my editor, Charlie Shepherd from Anderson Press, who asked me to have a go at writing some stories about twins and to make them a bit Greek like me. So that's how Callie and Jimmy were born. And we teamed up with a fantastic illustrator, Katie Keir, who's also added so much extra humour and life to the stories. So let me just quickly introduce you to Callie and Jimmy. I have a twin brother. Everyone calls him Jimmy, which is sort of the English version of Dimitri, his actual Greek name. Our mum's Greek, you see, because our grandparents are from Cyprus. Dad's not Greek, he's from Clapham. I'm Callie, short for Callista, which means, and I don't want to sound big-headed or anything, but it does mean most beautiful. I'm not sure about Dimitri, but if Dimitri means most annoying brother in the whole wide world, then that's him. So that's Callie and Jimmy out on the 3rd of September 2020.
Thank you, Zoe. Our audience here didn't actually hear that, but they're going to give you a huge round of applause anyway. And now we're here proper in Chiswick Playhouse, and I'm delighted to welcome our first author, Louise Burfitt-Dons.
A couple of years ago, I wrote a political thriller featuring an off-the-wall private investigator, Karen Anderson. It was intended as a one-off, but people kept asking me what happened to her, so I decided to continue her crazy exploits as in a trilogy. And this is the second book. It's The Killing of the Cherrywood MP. Hugh Thomas, MP for a fictional constituency in the Midlands, which has a large population of Muslims, is in trouble. Facing deselection from his local party, unless he can ramp up his pro-Sharia credentials, he's right onto it. His sudden and violent death, therefore, leads police to believe that it's the work of a far-right activist and a lone wolf, and Karen Anderson enters the fray. Her investigation takes her right across Europe to the border of Syria and Turkey, back to the pleasant city of Mainz on the banks of the Rhine. On the surface, it's German suburbia at its best, but it's also home to one of the most fascist, violent, neo-Nazi groups active today. I was a candidate for the Tories, the Conservatives in the 2015 election, so I know well the political process. I was born and brought up in the Middle East, so on the issue of Muslim integration, I see both sides. Reviewers have described both my books as ripped from the headlines thrillers, and I love a twisty plot. It's available as a paperback in Waterstones and also online.
Thank you very much. So no klaxon horn there yet, well within, I think, very good. I have to say it's wonderful to have a live audience. This is the only event in the whole of the festival that has a live audience, and we do miss them, but we're doing what we can. So anyway, we're all suitably distanced here. We're doing all the things we should be doing, and as I say, this is the only live audience that we've got, and they are the authors themselves. So our next author, delighted to welcome Diane Chandler.
Hello. Only Human is set in Chiswick. It's a novel. It's a family drama, and it's a tale of lies, love and betrayal. Anna is in her mid-40s and searching for meaning in life. She's a tiger mum, a pushy parent, and her only daughter is now a tricky teenager and already pulling away from her. She's also just discovered that her husband of 20 years is having an affair, and this has broken her. She considers leaving him, but has lost all confidence, having been duped by him and having given up her career to be a stay-at-home mum, a product of the school gate as she calls herself. She's struggling to restore herself to the confident woman she once used to be. Then her daughter's first boyfriend enters their lives. He's a fun and lively character, a breath of fresh air who brings new purpose to their dysfunctional family, and they all embrace him. Anna feels alive again for the first time in years. Thus begins her quest to discover who she is now and what she should do with the rest of her life, a journey that will lead her into a web of deceit, secrets and lies. As I said, it's set in Chiswick and takes in many familiar spots on the high road, bars, restaurants, shops, and the scent of Fuller's brewery steeps the air. It's a novel really about what happens to women who give up their own path in life for their families and how they cope once it's their time again. It's about love, married love, illicit love, and the love between a mother and a daughter. A mother who is looking backwards, yearning for her lost youth, and a daughter who is looking forwards, eager for the life about to begin. And it's about betrayal, why relationships falter, and how it feels to betray and to be betrayed. That's Only Human, and it's very much fiction. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Diane. In fact, you can see Diane in 2 other sessions. She runs the Chiswick Buzz Book Club, and we're delighted that the session that they did with Amanda Craig is being released in conjunction with the Chiswick Book Festival, and so that will be on our programme. And a late addition to the programme, we decided we needed more fiction on the main programme, and in fact we're going to have a session with Diane and with Rosamund Lupton, who used to live in Chiswick and has got a Sunday Times bestseller, 3 Hours, chaired by Rachel Schofield, and that will be on video, and that is called Too Close to Home, so watch out for that on the Saturday of the festival. I'm delighted to move away from fiction for our next speaker, and she will tell you exactly what her book is about. It's Meg Dylan.
Hi, I'm Meg Dylan, and this is my book, at L7_Meg, 2 cyclists, 1 mother, and the world. In June 2018, my son, Sam Dylan, and his girlfriend Jane Edwards set off from Chiswick Mall to cycle 18,000 miles around the world. Before they left, I made a pact with my son that I would write a microblog on Instagram stories by way of keeping in touch with him and for us to communicate the way about what was happening to me. So this book is the printed version of the 371 entries that I wrote. I had many followers of my blog. The blogs were between the age, well, they were either 59 or 28, and they were hanging on to my every word while I was writing the blog. So all hell tended to break out in the morning if I'd drunk too much wine the night before or something like that, and the blog wasn't there. Topics I cover, frustrations of using the technology. The book starts quite in a haphazard kind of a way because it was really difficult for me to use this Instagram stories, but I kind of finally got the hang of it. I was working from home, so this was very pre-COVID, so I was very sort of on trend before it all happened, and lots of anecdotes and stories about what it's like to work from home. I talk about the culture I consume, so I was frequently taking Michelle Obama, Arthur Miller, Somerset Maugham to bed, you know, very exciting reading.
I think that's it, I'm afraid.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, well done. Yeah. Thank you very, very much, Meg. The first chance to savour that klaxon. I'm glad not everybody is kept totally to time. On the website you'll see links to everybody's book. The link that we've given to Meg is her piece on chiswickw4.com, which tells you all about the story of it and so on. We're back to fiction for the next author. I'm delighted to welcome S.R. Gary.
Hello. The Casey series, which I write, is a police procedural based in Manhattan, which will appeal to fans of most murder mysteries, especially those set in New York. Detective Casey Clement and her team of misfits, gay giant O'Leary, 6'10", 54-inch chest, sounds like hayseed and probably isn't, as many criminals have discovered to their cost. An ex-sniper, Tyler, and Tech McGee Candy are a close-knit team who deal with the hardest cases. They don't play nice with others, though. They don't even try to play nice with others most of the time. They're held together by secrets and shared pasts. Casey's alcoholic father, O'Leary's homophobic family, Tyler has PTSD, and Andy has an abusive childhood in his background. But for all that, they're closer than blood. Into that rather interesting misfit mix comes Jamie Carville, a reality photographer fresh off his latest blockbuster, the darling of the cultural elite, bored, spoiled, and needing inspiration. He finds it when he falls over Casey and her team over a murder. He wants to follow them around, but they don't like that, thank you very much. They'd rather be left to themselves and their deaths. In the first book, Death in Focus, scientific fraud leads to financial fraud. In Death in Camera, we explore the internet and the abusive underbelly.
Is that it?
And in my
Yeah, I'm afraid that is it. It wasn't exactly doing it, but anyway. That's what we call ringing the changes, I think. Anyway, that was lovely. Thank you, Sam. Because we've scheduled everybody in alphabetical order, it's sheer chance that they have all been women authors so far. I'm delighted to welcome now Mark Godfrey, who's going to tell you about his first and about to be published novel.
My novel is called The River Reflects. It falls into the literary genre. It combines elements of mystery, human drama, and state of the nation. It's set in the present on the Thames in an artist studio located around the eastern end of Chiswick Mall going into Hammersmith Terrace. The river is important to the main character Sylvia. It is her constant companion and the novel's main metaphor. The story begins with Sylvia, a struggling artist who lives with her successful and wealthy husband. There are fault lines in the marriage, but soon she is stalked and then approached by the mysterious Victor, who wants to engage her for a year to produce art depicting the Holocaust. It is unclear who Victor is or who he represents, but she accepts on trust, in spite of her husband thinking she's crazy. She then discovers a 13-year-old girl, Nina, who becomes her model and pupil. Nina's mother describes her as withdrawn and lacking in confidence, but Sylvia finds her to be resolute and talented. Sylvia forms a deep affection for Nina, and as the months pass, she begins to unravel the truth about Victor and Nina, while unearthing more about history and identity than she could ever have imagined. I finished the first draft in 2014, thinking of it as a response to a political situation in which democracy seemed to be detaching itself from the will of the people. Nothing much has happened since to change that view, but I wanted it to be more humanitarian than political. As it progressed, it became about conscience and guilt. I started to think about the cliché of the slippery slope. Once you start descending, once you're on the ramp downwards, there's nothing you can do until you hit bottom. The book comes out next month, but it is available to pre-order now at Waterstones. Thank you.
Immaculately timed there, Mark. Well done. Thank you very, very much. We've now got the first of a few non-fiction books that will be given to you in the next few minutes. Vivian Kinross.
Thanks very much, Torin. Information Warriors, Battle for Hearts and Minds in the Middle East, available from Gilgamesh Publishing and Amazon, all good bookshops. Information Warriors tells the story of how Western propaganda has played a controlling part in shaping public opinion about the Middle East from the First World War until the present day. A century on from the Paris Peace Conference of 1919, the book asks the questions: how have we sold our interventions in the Middle East, and why is our foreign policy in the region failing? To answer these questions, the book brings together a number of strands. First of all, it charts the development of propaganda from science to art, from posters to pamphlets, from radio to film, and psychological operations to perception management. It tells us what it is, how it works, and who's used it. Second, it charts the trajectory of the British and US information states and the role they've played in selling our foreign policy and our military interventions in the region. The book exposes the information war through the occupation of Palestine in 1917, the Suez disaster in November 1956, the Iraq wars of the 90s and 2003, and the rise of Islamic State. So it describes how the region has been central in that trajectory to the destruction of 3 British Prime Ministers: Herbert Asquith after Gallipoli in 1916, Anthony Eden at Suez in 1956, and Tony Blair after Iraqi freedom in 2003. It charts these developments alongside the rise of public opinion in the Middle East as an existential force post the Arab Spring of 2011 and last year's Nile Spring of 2019.
That's it. Thank you very much. And you can read more about it on the website. The link is there, and so on. But the klaxon has beaten us. I'm delighted we've got some poetry this year, and so our next speaker is Susan Lee Kerr. It's a book of haikus, and we've got a sponsor for all of our haikus. You may say all of our haikus in the festival. We have actually got more than one speaker about haikus in the festival. You have to go on the website to see who the other one is. But that sponsor is Blossom Day W4, which was going to hold this wonderful event in Staveley Road, celebrating the fantastic Blossom and all of the connections with Japan that Blossom gives you. Unfortunately, things didn't work out as we hoped, but anyway, they have kindly sponsored some of the haiku activity here, and they will certainly be back next year. But please welcome Susan Leeker.
May morning greenfly, in my pink lipstick, you chose a beautiful death. Here's a haiku. The first haiku, and it's haiku, not haikus, in my collection, The Walk Home. You've heard of haiku and maybe written them, or your children have, little moments captured. So this book is filled with pauses, brief, live moments of awareness and meaning. It's only 60 pages, 90 poems actually. They need white space around them. We all need space around ourselves. Haiku are based on a Japanese form, 17 syllables, 3 lines. In English these days, they are shorter than that, at the essence of poetry. They're little gifts of time and noticing, no longer than a breath. They're usually a response to nature. How would I see the wind without the fallen petals? Haiku just kind of happen. And that one happened to me on Staveley Road in Grove Park, near my house. Cherry blossom is so stunningly beautiful, so brief. We even have our own new viewing festival in Chiswick. The website, as Torin mentioned, Blossom Day W4 on Twitter, Facebook as well, has the spring date and details of what will happen next April. Staveley Road cherry trees are also spectacular in November, a flaming fiery red. So I urge you to go and see that. But actually, haiku moments are all around, all the time, if I catch them, including in The Walk Home. And they aren't always about nature. Click of the gate and my daughter's heels, 2 a.m. So haiku can be a response to human nature and family and urban life.
That's it, I'm afraid. Thanks very much, Susan. And again, you can catch up on the website with more about all of these books. Back to non-fiction now, and Tom Levitt has spoken at our festivals before. Please welcome Tom Levitt.
Frances Perkins is probably the most important woman in democratic politics anywhere in the world in the first half of the 20th century. Yet inexplicably, she's unknown in this country and barely remembered in her native United States. For 20 years, she studied and then campaigned for factory safety, the abolition of child labour, and a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. This led her to then be spending 12 years, a record, in the cabinet of the American President, Franklin Roosevelt. Her program came to be known as the New Deal. She was inspired by seeing the Triangle factory fire in 1911, and it was on that site when I first came across her name about 7 years ago. This book looks at her life, at the difficulties she had with a husband with major mental health difficulties over 40 years. And then in the final chapter, we look at how the policies on those issues, which she brought in the 1930s, between the Depression and the Second World War, have influenced our lives in Britain, America, and the world today. Frances Perkins had the courage to meddle. The book's available on Amazon, both as a paperback and as an ebook, with hopefully the audio book coming out later this year. Thank you.
Admirably to time, Tom. And now back to fiction, and our fiction writer is Alec Marsh.
Good evening, hello. I'm here to talk about my new book, Enemy of the Raj, which is published by Headline Accent and available from the 17th of September. Enemy of the Raj is a historic thriller set in British India in 1937, just 10 years before independence. It sees the protagonist of the story, a Cambridge professor, an amateur historian named Ernest Drabble, and his friend Percival Harris, a journalist in one of the London papers, travelling to India to interview a mysterious Maharaja. However, they haven't got there very long in Delhi when they know things are not quite what they seem, and pretty soon, as they head to Rajasthan, they become involved in a conspiracy and a plot to assassinate a key individual, leading to a wider conspiracy which goes to the sort of pinnacle of power in the Raj and threatens the future of India as we know it. Enemy of the Raj is the second, I'm delighted to say, of my Drabble and Harris novels. Rule Britannia is the first. This was released last year and received some kind words. Ian Rankin described it as a rollicking good read. Alexander McCall-Smith pronounced it an eminently readable treat. I hope Enemy of the Raj is as good, and I obviously invite those of you out there listening and watching to try a Drabble and Harris adventure for yourself. Now you could start with Rule Britannia, which the good news is that's available to buy immediately, or you can wait until the 17th where Enemy of the Raj should be available. Thank you very much, and thank you to the festival for having me.
Thanks very much, Alec. I think those are the two best endorsements of the night. Ian Rankin and Alexander McCall-Smith. You can't say an awful lot better than that, so that's great. And now something completely different. We've got Billy Moran.
Well, I love Ian Rankin, but he's not read my book. I've lived in Chiswick since 2002. By day, I'm a writer for TV shows, including Horrible Histories. But during that time, I've also been working on my debut grown-up novel, which is out shortly, and it's called Don't Worry, Everything is Going to Be Amazing. Some words we'd all love to hear right now, I'm sure. Someone described it in the newspaper last week as a glow sticks and magnifying glass novel, which I think is very apt because, as the cover kind of suggests, it's a detective mystery set not just today, but back in the early 90s rave scene. The star of the show is a guy called Chris Pringleton. Now, Chris is regarded by everyone as a simpleton because all he's done obsessively for the last 20 years is stay at home and watch whodunits on TV, watch detective series, and build his own detective rulebook. However, when a peculiar crime stumps the local police, Chris claims he can solve it, and thanks to a daft police initiative, manages to inveigle his way into the investigation. Chaos naturally ensues, but what soon becomes apparent is that Chris and his merry band of misfit mates are actually trying to get to the bottom of a tragic family mystery which lies deep back in the 1990s. So it's a crime drama. I hope it will make you laugh. There should be some moving moments in it as well. It's full of my own experiences in the 90s and also my obsession with television. However, what it's really about is the rules, how we navigate them, how we bend them, break them, make our own in that ultimate quest, that quest to find happiness and meaning. So you can buy it online, you can order it on the high road. If you really want to, you can email me via my publisher. That would be Billy Moran at Source Materials, that's source as in source, .co.uk, and I can sort you out a signed copy. So I really hope you enjoy the book. Don't worry, everything's going to be amazing.
Thank you, Billy. That's very reassuring in these troubled times. Our final speaker, and we're back to non-fiction, is James Rogers.
I know lots of people who've been to South America, but you're the only person I know who's been to Siberia. That's what a friend of mine said to me a number of years ago during my own travels in Russia. And in Assignment Moscow, reporting on Russia from Lenin to Putin, I've told the story of the men and women who have explained the biggest country in the world to us right throughout its 20th century history, its revolutions, its upheavals, its times during the Second World War. And there are some amazing characters. Arthur Ransome, better known of course today as a children's author, was there during the revolutions of 1917 and came home married to Trotsky's secretary. Then there was Marguerite Harrison, whose gender prevented her in the First World War from going to Russia as a correspondent, so she pretended to be a correspondent and just went as a spy. Second World War, Alexander Worth, who witnessed the capture of the German generals at the Battle of Stalingrad, and for my own research I returned to Volgograd last year and saw the cellar where he witnessed those generals and the field marshal being taken into captivity. For the latter stages of the book, I'm lucky enough to be able to draw on my own experience. I first went to Russia as a journalist in the final years of the Soviet Union, lived through the Yeltsin years, the wars in Chechnya, and the rise of Vladimir Putin. And during that time, of course, I saw journalism find itself at the centre of the information wars we see now. So for our times, this is a book which praises good journalism in an era of fake news, and which encourages people to find out about other countries in a time when borders are increasingly getting stronger and stronger, and there are some great stories in it too.
Thank you very much, James, and in fact you will be able to hear more from him in the festival because he's going to be doing a podcast with Bridget Osborne of the Chiswick calendar, and we've got lots more for you in the next few days. Lots of podcasts which will all be released on Friday in one big block, so you can choose when you want to listen to those, and quite a lot of events on videos. So tomorrow night we'll be coming from Chiswick House, where we've got a wonderful event celebrating Hogarth, Soane and A Rake's Progress. For the first time in 200 years, Hogarth's A Rake's Progress paintings are back in West London where they started. Sir John Soane's wife bought them, installed them in Pitshanger Manor in Ealing, and then, of course, he moved everything into Lincoln's Inn Field. They've not been back since. They're there now. I've seen them. They are fabulous, and we're going to discuss why Hogarth and Soane and A Rake's Progress are still so influential today, why people look at them and take inspiration from them. And we've got a fabulous panel who are going to talk to us about that. On Friday evening we can hear from Antonia Fraser and Michael Billington about Harold Pinter. Harold Pinter would have been 90 next month. He wrote The Caretaker in Chiswick. That was the play that really made his name. That was 60 years ago this year. And also it's 15 years since he won the Nobel Prize, one of 2 Nobel Prize winners in Chiswick, all of whom are celebrated on our wonderful Chiswick timeline of writers and books. End of plug. But they have done a fabulous interview. It was featured in The Observer this week. That is one not to be missed. But we've got so many other events coming up, either on video or on Zoom or in podcasts. A host of stuff that's really, really worth your while. So please do get onto the website, look at it, see what you want to listen to, see what you want to watch. We're very grateful to Chiswick Buzz, who have filmed tonight and will be streaming all of our video material. We could not have done this without them. We're very grateful to the Chiswick calendar for all the podcasts, and that is real meaty material too. But we also can't do it without your donations. We've got some great sponsors and they've been very generous, and you can see all their names on the website. But we won't have any ticket income this year. Everything is free. And so if you've liked what you've seen coming up, or if you wait and then see whether you liked it after the event, please donate. It's very simple on the website. That's the way we're funding it this year. Hopefully next year we'll be back in our normal place and places, and we'll have a wonderful time meeting each other. But in the absence of that, I hope you really enjoy the festival. Thank you.